During these challenging times, we'd like to invite you to a market volatility and crisis communication skills training.
The purpose of the training is so that you can actually not just have a strong defense and follow a precise communications formula for how to have clients actually bond with you during this time, but how to use that platform to stage an offense and get a message out that leads towards client acquisition.
This teleseminar is for you if you find yourself only playing defense, taking lots of inbound calls, and not going on offense, making outbound calls.
This teleseminar is for you if you find that when you open a call, it feels kind of awkward because you know that the client's dealing with issues, emotions, so are you, but you don't quite know what to say. Or you kind of drive through the call and afterwards you wonder, are they really satisfied with what I had to say? Could there be something looming in the background? Am I going to lose this client? Is there unexpressed communication? If you've ever wondered, is there a format for how I should conduct such a conversation? Is there a precise and exact way to produce the best possible outcome? Then this teleseminar is for you.
You may also be a team leader, and you might be comfortable with your own communication, but you know that members of your team that might be more junior or less trained are also taking these very important calls before you can get to people. This teleseminar might be for members of your team so that it also supports the continuity of the efforts you're making, being supported by team members that are also taking these challenging calls.
Absolutely. And this teleseminar is for you if you're delivering one message, but you don't know for sure whether or not your team is delivering a different message because you don't all have the same message and it's not written.
Imagine if you and your team had a precise definition for what triggered your entire team to go into action when there is a market correction or some other extraordinary event that your team needs to have a united front and be in action.
Imagine if you had an emergency response plan the same way that you would have for an earthquake or for a hurricane, where everyone on the team was perfectly synchronized because there was already a clear plan of action and you were able to have maximum impact on your clients and the people that you serve.
Or imagine that you and your team members had a precise formula for how to conduct these delicate calls, not only with existing clients, but also with prospects who might be neglected by their existing advisor. What if you and your team, including very junior members, knew exactly how to move through a conversation in a way that would have clients feel at ease and prospects interested in the possibility of coming over?
As the market began to experience incredible volatility, Brooke and I, every single day, were on the phones coaching advisors we ordinarily do, and we had to stop for a moment as we were role-playing with advisors and recognize that they literally don't have a process, that they're literally making it up as they go, that there's no consistency of message, that there's no structure to the message, and that in fact, some of them were making mistakes that could easily be off-putting to clients, and that we could see or at least appreciate that some of these clients, this would become the reason why at a later date they might leave or end the relationship. And so we decided, based on our background, I spent 2 years as a media skills coach to the White House. Brooke, early on in her career, was a crisis communication speaker for the Women's Coalition. And we decided to take those skills and bring them to the financial services industry.
In contrast, while we saw new clients not having a precise formula, we spoke to former clients that we have trained with this formula, who had already not only been in contact with their existing clients and knew exactly how to put them at ease, they had trained their team members to also be in communication, which freed them up to be on the attack and using this market correction and this period as a time to prospect. That was a very clear contrast between those who had been trained and those who had not been trained.
We also know that often when people think of crisis communication, they assume that it means only defense. One of the things that we highlight that's important about this particular teleseminar is that if you only play defense or you play to not lose, you will lose. that you have to be willing to play to win. And that means having a clear message and driving that message into the marketplace, ideally to increase your market share during this period of time.
And bottom line, to make a difference for as many people as you can, including yourself, your team, and your family. In this teleseminar, you will learn how to create a codified crisis communication response plan that you will use and that you will roll out to your team. Included in this crisis communication response plan will be the exact dialogue that you and your team will use for this current market, as well as any future market corrections or events that require this kind of action plan.
You'll even see that your front line of defense in client acquisition is not necessarily you immediately jumping into prospecting, but how do you train COIs? How do you train clients? How do you train friends, family, and social acquaintances to actually be on the lookout for people who really could use competent help during this time and know how to direct those people to you? This is only a 35-minute teleseminar, and the feedback that we've gotten is that it is the single most valuable training that most advisors have ever experienced on this subject at any time. If there was ever a time for you to have this information, it's now. If there was ever a time for you to put clients at ease, it's now. If there was ever a time to not lose clients, it's definitely now. If there was ever a time for you to actually be on the attack and gain market share, it's now. We look forward to having you at the teleseminar.